Well, hey there, guys. Greetings and salutations, and welcome to this installment of Open Mic, the show where the mic is open. The floor is yours. What do you guys want to talk about? That's what we're here to discuss today. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. Good to have you guys here. And just a reminder on Open Mic, if you want to have a topic or a question submitted here, you use the super chat feature in the live chat. Now, that means you have to be watching live as this show is live to submit a question. Otherwise, you can't, unfortunately. But we do welcome you here, even if you're watching this a little bit later in the day. Good to see everybody in the live chat already. And it's good to be here. I've had a great weekend already. Ann and I had a rough week. We lost one of our dogs. And we lost our one dachshund a couple months back. That was pretty hard because Ann had that dachshund for like 17 years. And then we just lost the other dachshund who we had for 15, 16 years, just a few days ago. So we were able to spend a really good weekend together and kind of deal with all that. So anyway, guys, good to have you here. Thanks for joining me here today. And we are here to take your questions. And that is what we are going to do. But before we get to the questions, as always with Open Mic, I usually kick it off with a topic. And, I went on to our post tab, onto our community tab on YouTube, and I asked our subscribers, I said, hey, I'm doing Open Mic a little bit later. What would you like the opening topic to be? And a couple of people threw in some topics that we're clearly going to discuss on the John Campea show tomorrow, but somebody wrote in something, said, considering they both basically go for the same audience, which do you think is the better currently airing show? Reacher or Daredevil Born Again? And I remember that question struck me really well because they're right. This is a show that is kind of going for the same audience. When you look at the very nature of it, like one's a comic book, one is not, but they're both kind of treated the same way, right? They're both kind of treated, they both clearly have the same demographic. Now, one has had a few more episodes this year with Reacher. Daredevil's only had 3 episodes, so Reacher's kind of ahead of it. And I watch both shows. I watch both shows the day they drop. I watch Daredevil on Tuesdays. I watch Reacher on Thursdays. I've been watching both of them, and they're both great. And I enjoy them both very, very much. But each one of them has advantages over the other, right? Each one of them has advantages over the other. For example, Daredevil Born Again has the advantage of having a broader world that we already know, right? With the MCU, we understand Daredevil in a broader context, even though they've been kind of treating Daredevil Born Again kind of like a standalone thing. Like, yeah, there's a brief mention of Spider-Man. And if it wasn't for the fact that White Tiger had a magic amulet that gave him superpowers, nothing about Daredevil Born Again would make you think there were superpowers in this universe, right? But yeah, so there's that. Then you have Reacher, who has his own extended universe in a way. I mean, remember the Reacher, not only did Tom Cruise have his movies, the first one was great, second one not so great, but they got the very popular book series and all that kind of stuff as well. And Alan Ritchson is just so perfect as Reacher. He's just so great as Reacher. It's very difficult to say. I like the action in both of them. I like the drama in both of them. I like the fact that neither show, Reacher or Daredevil, just rely on action to be like, they actually rely on interesting story and interesting characters to make their shows work. I appreciate that about both of them. So for me, I'm going to say this. If I was just comparing the first 3 episodes of Daredevil to just the first 3 episodes of Reacher season 3, I would give the nod to Daredevil. I think overall, the first 3 episodes of Daredevil were a little bit sharper, a little bit more interesting than the first 3 episodes of Reacher season 3. Again, I really like the first 3 episodes of Reacher season 3. I do, but I would give the nod there. But if we don't just limit it to the same number of episodes, I would say overall, and some of you may agree, some of you may disagree. I would say overall, Reacher season 3, I think by a razor's edge so far overall in what we've got from it so far, I'm enjoying a little bit more than what we've gotten from Daredevil season 3 so far. Because while I think the first 3 episodes of Daredevil were just a little bit better than the first 3 episodes of Reacher season 3, I think Reacher season 3 really picked it up after episode 3. By the way, Jace gifted a membership. Thank you, Jace. That's awesome, man. And Don Juan just sent in a $1 chat badge. Thank you, man. Appreciate that. So for me, once again, if I was comparing straight up first 3 episodes to first 3 episodes, I give the slight edge to Daredevil. But Reacher season 3 just got better and better and better to me as the season has gone on. It's just continued to pick. Because I'll admit, like, the first 3 episodes of season 3, while I liked them, I did, they were also my least favorite of the Reacher episodes I had seen so far. Like, I vastly preferred seasons 1 and 2 to the first 3 episodes of season 3. But season 3 has just really kept the ball rolling, really got the momentum going. And I'm like really enjoying it right now. Like, if this thing keeps on pace, it might become my favorite season. Not quite there yet. It doesn't need to be. So while I am really enjoying both shows right now, and I'm having a great time with both of them, and I think both of them are winners so far, I would say I'm going to give Reacher the edge right now, but we'll see what happens with Daredevil. Daredevil is now 1/3 of the way through the season. They got 6 more episodes to go. And if they can do what Reacher has done, which is get better and better and better, then it could pass Reacher. If it doesn't get better and better and better, then maybe Reacher stays in the league. Now that's it. Now look, I've had a few people writing in since I put that up, because I remember the title of the episode today is Daredevil or Reacher the better show right now? This season's Reacher and Daredevil. And some people misinterpreted that as me saying, oh, one of these two is the best show on TV. That wasn't the topic. The question is not, which is the best show on TV, Reacher or Daredevil? I was just comparing Reacher and Daredevil because they're 2 shows that really try to appeal to the exact same audience. The exact same audience. So I was just comparing 2. Now I've had people writing in the chat before the show even started today, like, well, what about Invincible? Nah, Invincible season 3 was really good. I just reviewed it. I had a very good time with it, but it is still what it is. Like, Invincible is what it is. Like, cue up every episode where Invincible and somebody else have to hit each other so hard they go flying through buildings. It is what it is. And I really liked season 3. I did. I just reviewed it. I gave it a big thumbs up. I really enjoyed it. But I don't even think Invincible is the best animated show on TV right now, let alone the best show on TV. I don't even think it's the best animated show on TV right now. Although I really like it. I'm not trashing on it. I really love it. Then some people are mentioning The Pitt. And The Pitt is great, but The Pitt is a very different kind of show that's appealing to a different kind of audience, right? By the way, I have loved The Pitt. If you're not watching The Pitt, it's on HBO Max. It's excellent. A lot of doctors and nurses call it like the most accurate depiction of a hospital emergency room. And I believe them because it just feels so grounded and so amazing and so excellent. Some people mentioning White Lotus. I'll be honest with you guys. Again, this is not me attacking anybody or anything. Everything's subjective in art. I love that White Lotus has a very loyal and excited and enthusiastic fan base. I love that there are a lot of people that really like White Lotus. I'm not trying to tarnish any of that. Just for me, I don't get the appeal. I mean, it's funny because White Lotus looks like the kind of show I would like, and I admit I never watched season 2, and I certainly have no plans to watch season 3. But I watched a bunch of season 1. And I was just like, why is this popular? But again, that's not me taking away from anybody who does like it. I'm sure there's stuff I like that other people look at and go, why do you like that, Campea? It's fair. It's all the art is subjective. It's totally cool. It's just that's a show to me that I didn't really kind of, I don't get the appeal, but that's okay. That's fine with me. Anyway, so yeah, that's my thoughts on the whole comparison of two shows that are really going after the same audience right now, Reacher and Daredevil. I mean, there's no wrong answer. They're both great so far, but I would just give the slight edge to Reacher season 3 over Daredevil Born Again season 1. So now if we were comparing the Netflix seasons of Daredevil to the entire series run of like seasons 1, 2, and 3 of Reacher, that would be a completely different discussion, but we're talking just about season 3 of Reacher to season 1 of Daredevil Born Again. So that's how I kind of see it. Somebody else saying Severance. Severance is great, but Severance doesn't belong in the conversation. It's a completely different kind of show, right? It's not in the conversation with Reacher and Daredevil any more than Shogun would be in that. Like, Reacher and Daredevil completely going for the same kind of audience, the exact same audience. Severance, not so much. The Pitt, not so much. Why'd I hit that button? The Pitt, not so much. Severance, not so much. It's so Shogun, not so much. So yeah, that's why I wouldn't do that. All right. Let's see. And here's our weekly moron. We got a weekly moron in here. Where is it? Oh yes. Grungy Chris, the weekly moron alert. Stop kissing up to people. If you didn't like a show, say it. I did say I didn't like it. What part? Like, maybe I need to speak more slowly for you so you can understand. It's easy to say I didn't like it, and that's exactly what I said. I didn't like it, but some people are too intellectually restrained to be able to understand that you cannot like something and still say, I completely get and I recognize and I understand there's a lot of other people that do, and if you do, great. But some people are just so stupid and so mentally limited that they can't grasp that. You just got to say you hate something and not kind of acknowledge other things. I clearly said I didn't like it. I clearly said I don't understand the appeal of it, but you don't understand. Am I speaking slowly enough for you? Anyway, there's that. So with that down, guys, let's get on now here, shall we, with the real reason we're here, which is to take your live comments and questions, shall we? We're going to get things started off here with Mike Vetter, who writes one of two. I don't think many people will be lost watching Born Again if they never saw the original series. However, I believe the series is 10 times better if they did. Foggy's death doesn't mean nearly as much to those who didn't watch the original show. I don't know that I agree with that. I mean, look, I definitely agree, and I 100% am on board with you when you say that, hey, if you did watch the show, you'll be in a position to better appreciate what's going on. I 100% agree with that. I don't believe it's a 10 times better show if you had watched the original. Now, this is one of the things that I think episode 1 of Daredevil did really well. I think what they did really well was that even if you had never seen Daredevil on Netflix, in just the first few minutes of episode 1, they clearly established how tight Foggy and Matt are, right? They're not even talking to each other. He's at the bar with the girl. He's in a booth with Karen, but you can even tell the way he's talking about them that they have a very tight, very long, this is a very special person to Matt. And so when he dies on the sidewalk, it has a deep impact. And I think if you are somebody who never saw Daredevil, I think you understood that. I think we got it, that this was a powerful loss for this character, right? This was a powerful loss for this character. I don't think if you saw the Netflix series of Daredevil that you would have understood that anymore. What I do think would have been different is that it would have had a bigger impact on the audience themselves because you and I were attached to Foggy. Like what Daredevil Born Again needed is they needed us to understand what the loss to Matt meant. And I think they did that with episode 1. What they can't replicate is the sense of loss that we as the audience feel because we spent 3 seasons with this guy, right? Now, I don't think that ultimately makes the show better or worse. But I thought they did a good job with it in episode 1. But again, in principle, I absolutely agree with you that I don't think you have to have seen Netflix series to be able to get Daredevil Born Again, but there is more you'll appreciate if you had. So at least that's how I feel about through 3 episodes. Let's see how we feel about it over the next 6. All right. Thanks for writing that in, Mike. Appreciate it, man. All right. Next up. Where are we at? We are at Dwayne, who writes, "Hey, John, did you see the new F1 trailer?" I absolutely did. I liked it a lot. It gives a bit more insight into the story. Can't wait for it. I got to tell you, man, they dropped the first little tease about F1 to us at CinemaCon last year. By the way, CinemaCon 2025 is in 2 weeks. My favorite event of the year. I mean, obviously the Oscars, but I don't get to go to the Oscars. CinemaCon is my absolute favorite event of the year. A lot of years ago, it passed Comic-Con for me. CinemaCon is better than Comic-Con. It depends what you're going for. But it's held in Vegas. All the studios are going. All the movie theater chains go. They give these big presentations of all the movies that are coming out over the next year. Some full advanced screenings. I know they're going to be showing us How to Train Your Dragon. They're going to show us How to Train Your Dragon in 2 weeks. I'm so excited about that. I have a feeling they're going to show us Lilo and Stitch. I still believe they're going to show us Superman. I don't know that for sure. I'm just guessing, but I'm guessing they're going to show us Superman. So anyway, and then all the directors come, all the stars come, all the studio heads come. It's just a 4-day wonderland for people like me. I cannot wait. Anyway, what brought that up? Oh yes, that's when they gave us our first little insight, our first little view into F1. And I thought, okay, this can be interesting. Formula One's a huge global sport. People all over the world, not as much as North America, but all over the globe love F1. And you got the director of Top Gun Maverick, and you got Brad Pitt. Okay, sounds good. That trailer was fire, man. That trailer's great. And it felt like Top Gun Maverick. Like, so clearly the director employed some of the same techniques, putting the cameras right in the cockpit with them for you to feel the speed, feel the adrenaline, feel the G-forces, right? And it just, that drew me in right away. And to get a little bit of the story now from that trailer, it's like, okay, he's a washed up dude, or people consider him washed up or a never was sort of thing, but he's clearly one of the best. Now he's on a team with a younger guy and they kind of, have animosity and all that kind of stuff. There's a resentment that this older guy is here now. It looked great. It looked great. Now, here's my thoughts on this. I don't know how well F1 is going to do in North America. Because again, I don't think F1 is as big in North America as it is in the rest of the world, right? So I'm not sure how well it will do, but I suspect, and I'm certainly no expert on international box office, but I suspect if the movie's good, and there's no reason not to believe it'll be good, but if the movie's good, this movie could make a lot of money worldwide, right? Could make a lot of money worldwide. So it will be very interesting. Hold a second. Let me see if I can bring up some projections on the international. No, I can't bring up any projections on the international. That's fine. It might be a little bit too early. But at any rate, I have a feeling this thing could do real well globally. Real well globally. Like, they say that the production budget, I don't know how a movie about cars is $300 million, but I heard, now there might be true, might not be true, but from what I heard, the production budget on the movie is about $300 million. I have a feeling it's probably less than that, but that's the report going around. But I think the international market by itself could make that. That would then just leave the North American box office to make up for the advertising budget and then the theatrical cut, the movie theater cut, I should say. And if F1 can make 300 million on the international stage, I think it'll make enough North America wise to take it over the finish line to be, I didn't even realize I did a pun there. I think it'll be enough to make it profitable. Because let's say it's $100 million advertising, okay? Just for argument's sake. Let's say they spend $100 million globally on advertising. As of right now, they have not spent that much money on advertising because they've got like one trailer. I haven't seen many billboards for it. I haven't seen a lot of TV commercials for it. But let's, for argument's sake, say they spend $100 million on marketing. So now you got a $300 million budget, a $100 million marketing budget. So you got $400 million. The movie theaters will keep about 1/3. So that means worldwide, this movie needs to make $600 million, because if it makes $600 million and then you minus the theatrical cut of 1/3, that'll be $200 million off. That leaves you with $400 million. $300 production, 300 million production, 100 million things. So this thing is roughly going to need to make about $600 million just to break even. That's ridiculous. That is absolutely ludicrous that they've made a movie that has to make 600 million worldwide just to break even. Like I don't understand how certain movie executives still have their job. That being said, can it make 250 North America? Brad Pitt, director of Top Gun Maverick? I think it could make 250 North America, which then leads it only needs to make 300 to 350 worldwide. Everywhere else in the world, that F1 is majorly popular. So if the movie's good, yeah, I could see this movie being profitable. If it's not good, then it won't. But again, just do not underestimate the popularity of Formula One. I am not a Formula One fan myself, but I made the mistake of underestimating the popularity of it before. It's like when I heard they're bringing F1 to Las Vegas, I thought, who cares? And then it's like the biggest thing in Vegas ever in history, right? It's a big deal. And again, we're not saying it needs to make $1 billion overseas. It will need to make about 350 million. I think it can do that. Brad Pitt, one of the biggest movie stars in the world, the director of Top Gun Maverick, and it's Formula One. You don't think if it's good, it can make $350 million overseas? You don't think it could make $350 million overseas? Okay, if you don't think that's possible, good for you. I think it's very possible. But again, let's wait and see if the movie's any good. But if it's good, I think it'll break even and be profitable. Because again, it just has such a big international appeal. So, but if it's bad, all bets are off. All right. Thanks for that, Dwayne. Next up, we've got Luna 9 Astra, who writes, "Hey, John, I saw Black Bag yesterday. I'm seeing it tomorrow. I'm very excited about seeing that movie tomorrow. Hey, John, I saw Black Bag yesterday and it was great, but I would have been fine with paying a full movie ticket price to watch it yesterday at home." Well, that's what's destroying the movies. That's what's destroying the movie industry. Is that a plausible solution for movies to make money? No, it's not. Because, and here's primarily why. They've tried that. They've tried to experiment with that before. Here's the problem. When you debut something at home, it instantly takes on the allure of being something cheap. It just does. You can just watch it at home now? It mustn't be. It loses legitimacy. Number two, okay, you pay, let's say movie tickets $19. Great. But you could have 8 people over to your house watching it. So right there, and let's say only half of those people would have gone to the movie theater to see it. Okay. They've just lost 75% of their money by doing that. Plus, the digital infrastructure isn't really in place to do it. Plus, they don't have adequate piracy protection to do it that early in its stuff. They still struggle with that today. Believe me, the industry is motivated by greed, as is all industries. The automotive industry, the fashion industry, the technology industry, the ice cream industry, the shoe industry, every industry you can imagine is motivated by greed. Unless they're charitable, every industry is motivated by greed. But what being motivated by greed means is if there was actually a way that they thought they could make more money doing it that way, they would absolutely have started doing it 10 years ago. But again, the piracy protection is something that still has not matured enough to the point that they have an actual solution for it. But the bigger problem is that, okay, great, you pay $20 for it, and then you can throw a party and have 35 people over at your place to watch it, and now they've lost out on 90% of the potential box office. Even if only half of those people who come to your house to watch it would have actually gone to see it in theater. It's a lose, lose, lose. Plus, here's the thing that they know. Okay? This is important. Let me see if I can get this up here. Let's say one of our sponsors, Ridge. This is a Ridge decal. Let's say Ridge represents the home viewer, right? The home viewer who would happily spend to watch Black Bag at home for $20. Okay? Now, here's the thing. They know the vast majority of the time, this person will pay that $20 to watch that movie at home, whether it happens here, early in the theatrical window stage, or way over here, whether it's long after the theatrical window is over. They know you're going to pay that $20 regardless, right? So the way they see it is, let's have our theatrical, get everybody to go see it, or at least a bunch of people to go see it in theaters. We make tons of money there. Then we'll put it out on home video for $20. And a bunch of these people who went to go see it in theater will still buy it anyway. And the person who wanted to just watch it at home is going to get it anyway. So there's really no mathematical or financial model here that makes sense for the industry. Because believe me, they tested it. They played around with it over a decade ago. There's really no financial model there that makes sense for the studios to do it that way, because they know they're just burning money. They're just throwing money away if they do. And right now, one of the things the movie industry cannot handle is burning more money. So anyway, it's a good question, but that's why. Now, if you really loved the movie, guess what? They probably got you twice, because I know this happens to me, right? You went to the theater because this remote control is representing the theater, right? You went to the theater to watch it, right? And you loved it. So guess what? You're probably going to be this too. You're probably, when it does become available on home streaming, you're probably going to buy it because you loved it, right? So they know instead of just getting you once, they'll get you twice. It happens to me all the time. Like I go to the movies, I watch a movie, and if I really super love it, guess what? When it becomes available on digital, I buy it digitally and I've got it in my library. So there's just no way for them to kind of throw that away. It would be financial suicide. And again, remember, this is a greed motivated industry like every other industry. If they thought they could make more money doing it the way you were suggesting it, they would absolutely do it that way without hesitation. But they know that's not going to work and it's just financial suicide for them. Anyway, great question, man. I appreciate that. All right. Next up, we've got our friend Johnny Weiner, who writes, I've seen a lot of hate on the older X-Men films, which I don't get. I don't get it. Some were about character changes like Rogue or even costume related. Any reasons? I'm not quite sure what it is you're asking. Well, listen, there's some hate out there for the original X-Men movies, but there's a lot of love out there for the original X-Men movies. There's a lot of love and hate for just about any movie you can mention. Because not everything is going to appeal to everybody. I think for the most part, there is a lot of appreciation for the original Fox X-Men films, but like even somebody like me, who is a fully admitted lover of the original Fox X-Men movies, even I will tell you, some of them were terrible. I mean, I don't think X-Men 3 is as bad as it's made out to be, but it was definitely not great. All right, it was definitely not great. X-Men Origins Wolverine, X-Men Apocalypse, Dark Phoenix, the Phoenix movie, whatever they called the name of the Phoenix movie was. I mean, so there's a lot of love for it, though. There's a deep appreciation and a lot of love for it. And there's some people who don't. I think just hearing some people saying they didn't like it, you shouldn't interpret that as, why is everybody hating on X-Men? Well, it's not. Listen, there are people who don't like Avatar. There are people who don't like, I don't know. There are people who don't like Barbie. But you can't go, man, everybody hates Barbie. Barbie was the #1 box office film of the year. A lot of people, the majority of people really liked Barbie. I mean, but you're going to get that both sides, right? And yes, there are people who didn't like the fact that they didn't use the comic book costumes. I thought it was a good idea not to use the comic book costumes, and I stand by that. There were some people who didn't. They wanted Rogue to be the way she was after she got Captain Marvel's powers, but they were using her before that. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of different reasons that different people have, but at the end of the day, I think there are a lot more people who like the original X-Men films, notwithstanding some of the terrible ones that they did, than there are who are general haters of it. I mean, that's just my interpretation of the situation at any rate. I could be right, I could be wrong. All right, thanks for that, Johnny. Next up, we've got Spencer Nielsen, who writes, what's more likely to happen first? A movie grosses $3 billion, which we've gotten very, very, very close to, or a second filmmaker matches the record of 4 Best Director Oscars set by John Ford in 1952. That one, I don't know that one will ever be beat. What was the last one he won for? I want to say How Green Is My Valley. Was How Green Is My Valley, was that the last one he won for? Anyway, I don't know if that, I don't think there's ever going to be a director that will win 4. Listen, it's incredibly difficult just to win 1. Look how long it took for Christopher Nolan to get 1. I mean, I feel silly asking this, guys in the live chat. Has Quentin Tarantino ever won 1? I know he's won for writing before, but did Quentin Tarantino ever win Best Director? Martin Scorsese, he didn't win 1 until he did The Departed. Scorsese didn't get his first directing Academy Award until The Departed. I don't think there is an Academy Award that is harder to win. They're all nearly impossible to win. Every one of them is nearly impossible to win. But I don't know that there's a harder one to win than director. Like that, because you have to be maestro-like, and then just hope that somebody else didn't do just a little bit better of a job that year. Like, you could do the second best directing job on a movie in the history of film, but if the person who did the first best in the history of film just happened to do it on the same year as you don't get an Oscar. Even though if your movie had been in any one of 20 other years, you would have won the Oscar. Just so happens you did it on the one year that, I don't know, Peter Jackson directed Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, and no Oscar for you. It's really, really hard. So I don't know that we're ever going to see it. 3 billion is also next to impossible, but we've come really, really close. There have been a couple of films that have gotten really close. You also got to remember when John Ford won all of his Oscars, like 1/10 the amount of movies got made that get made today. Right? Maybe an 1/8, whatever. But there was a lot less competition. There was a lot less competition at the time compared to now. Plus, today, you're also competing against directors. Like the Oscars are an international thing now. You're competing, literally a guy directing a movie in Spain could win Best Director at the Academy Awards. It's just a different thing today. It makes it even harder. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It's a great question, man. All right. Next up, we've got Andy, who writes, having grown up as a Catholic, me too, and gone to Catholic school, so did I, that Daredevil Born Again intro felt like it had so much Catholic influence and aesthetics. Well, I mean, if you know Daredevil at all, that is one of the primary character traits, the DNA of the Matt Murdock character. His Catholicism is a major, major part of who he is and what his moral lines are and his internal struggles and all that kind of stuff. It's all rooted in his Catholicism. And so, yeah, to get Daredevil and to understand the character at all, you have to fundamentally understand the Catholicism of the character. 100% you do. All right. Next up, we've got Andy again, who writes, it was weird when Kingpin debated other candidates for mayor in that first episode and started ranting about how masked vigilantes were eating cats and dogs. Guys, it's all done now. Like, the election's over, so I'm not trying to influence anybody, but I don't know, guys. Like, I currently live in a country that literally elected a convicted criminal to be president. That is why when people say, like, we were talking about Daredevil and people are like, that's so stupid. No, they wouldn't have elected Kingpin. Guys, we literally have a guy who is convicted of being a sexual predator, convicted of being a fraud, and convicted on 36 counts of criminal charges. But here's the thing to me. In that presidential debate, when he comes out and says these Haitian immigrants in this one town are eating people's pets, they're eating the cats and they're eating the dogs. And even the police came out and said, no, we've had no such thing in our community. They doubled down on it, kept saying, well, yeah, they're eating. How anybody saw that and still thought this guy should be elected president. But that's the United States of America, my friends. It was very confusing to me. Now, I'm not trying to influence anybody. The election's over. It's done. It's just that I have to admit to you, it's like living in idiocracy. Like, literally, a guy, a convicted felon, sexual predator, business fraud, criminal charges, bold-faced lies on TV. The immigrants are eating people's cats and dogs. And yet, I grab people's pussies and they like it. I don't even ask permission. I just do it. And yet they elected him president. It's an interesting world. It's an interesting world. But it is what it is. All right. Let's keep going here, shall we? All right. Next up, Raymond Verrata writes, get your brackets ready. It's NCAA Selection Sunday. You know, somebody asked me a little while ago if I would be doing, because you remember back in the AMC days, once March Madness came around, we always did our movie March Madness tournament where we did like best animated film of all time, best villains of all time. And we set up brackets and we get it all the way down to 2. Somebody asked me a month or two ago, if we would do it this year. And I said, I would like to do it, but I've totally forgotten that it was even coming. So I don't know if I could get something ready in time to do a movie March Madness this year, especially since we're also getting ready for CinemaCon. But, yeah, so it might be too late for that. But listen, I'm somebody who does not care about college basketball at all. And even I get glued to March Madness. It is a brilliant, one of the best things in sports. Not the best thing in sports, but it's one of the best things in sports. And I never follow college basketball until you get to the tournament. So much drama, so much real stories. It's a magnificent thing. And as somebody who doesn't watch college basketball, I look forward to it every year. All right. Next up, we've got, who do we got? We got Murray Reich, who writes, do you think the scaled down premiere of Snow White will hurt its box office potential overall? None. I plan on seeing it no matter what, but just curious. No. Listen, the red carpet premieres of movies do nothing to move the needle on their box office. Not a thing. not the biggest, grandest, unbelievable, opulent, movie galas. And I've been to a lot of them. None of them add one extra dollar to the box office of the movie. And I've seen a lot of big studio movies that never even had premieres. Like a lot of us forget it. Like a lot of movies today don't even have big premieres. Like they'll have a premiere in like Berlin or something like that. And it'll be a more low key thing. But a lot of the big, huge blockbusters today, like Snow White is supposed to be, will have these big, grand, opulent kind of things. And they had more of a scaled down premiere for it. But again, you could have spent $100 million on the premiere. It wouldn't have added $1 to the box office. You could have had no premiere whatsoever. It wouldn't have taken away $1 from the box office. Now, I don't know how good or bad Snow White's going to do. But I did see something that kind of surprised me. That I saw a bunch of first reactions. We're going to talk about this at length on the John Campea show tomorrow. But I saw a bunch of first reactions for Snow White come out. And they're great. But here's the part that gets me. A number of the people who gave first reactions straight up have been hating on this movie. Like there's one person I know who like this whole time is, I don't like Gal Gadot. I really don't like, why am I freezing on the name of the girl playing Snow White? Anyway, I really don't like her. There's no point to this movie, blah, blah, blah. They went and saw it and they said, I'm going to regret saying this, but Snow White is really good. Rachel Zegler, right? So there are a number of people who gave reactions that have in the last couple of weeks and months saying they really don't like Rachel Zegler. And they went to go see this movie and they came out and they're like, fuck me. That movie's really good. This is a really good movie. And the first reaction, that's the thing. It's not just that the first reactions are really good. It's who those first reactions are from. And a number of them are from people who have been straight up hating on this movie before they saw it. And then they saw it and were like, wow, this movie's really good. Now, I don't know how good it's going to, they have not marketed this film well at all. I don't know how good or bad it's going to do. But apparently they made a really good movie. Go figure. I've got my tickets. Ann and I are going to see it on Thursday. So we'll see how it does. We'll see how it does. Now, I saw projections for Snow White. They're saying it might have like a $50 million opening. And here's the thing about if it has a $50 million opening. I want to remind everybody that Mufasa, the Lion King, had a $35 million opening. A $35 million opening. You know how much Mufasa went on to make? Over $700 million. It made almost $715 million. That had a $35 million opening. One of the recent animations, Elemental, right? Elemental had a $29 million opening. $29 million opening. Again, another Disney film. It went on to make $500 million on a $29 million opening. So if Snow White can open to 50 or 55, I already see the headlines. Snow White flops. Snow White flops, right? $50 million opening. I just need you to remind people, hey, Mufasa had a $35 million opening and it went on to make like $700 million. Will that happen to Snow White? I'm not saying it will. I haven't seen the movie myself. I don't know if it's a big bag of crap. It might be a big giant bag of crap. I am just saying though, it is pretty interesting to me seeing a number of people who talked a lot of shit about this movie, then went to go see it. I mean, and these are people of integrity because they went to go see it and then came out and said, hey, you know what? I know I've talked crap on Rachel Zegler. I know I've talked crap. This is a pretty darn good movie. it's going to be interesting to see how it does. I think they have dropped the ball on the marketing for it. I think they dropped the ball on the marketing for it. I just don't see it making a ton of money, but I didn't think I thought Mufasa would make a lot. But once it opened, I didn't think it would make $700 million. I didn't even like Mufasa that much, to be honest with you. But hey, we'll have to see what happens. We'll see what happens with it. All right. Next up. John. John Emir Singleton writes, just want to say that I've been watching since the MCU Phase 3 announcements and you're a huge inspiration, so thank you for everything, truly. Oh, thank you so much for that, John. Man, I still remember that MCU Phase 3 announcement. I remember me, Christian Harloff, Mark Ellis, we went down to the El Capitan Theater in Hollywood, which is literally right across the street from the Man's Chinese Theater, and it's owned by Disney, and they had this big announcement day. And that's the day that Chadwick Boseman came out on stage there. And, and Robert Downey Jr. came out on stage and Chris Evans came out on stage and they talked about Civil War and they talked about all this stuff they're doing. It was a great event. They've never done it really like that since, but it was an absolutely great event. And it was just so wonderful. I wish they would get back to that. I really do. I kind of wish they would, but we're in the Comic-Con era and now they have D23 where they try to make all their announcements and hey, they made some great announcements at D23 this year. They really did. I think the event as a whole is a joke, but the announcement night is always top notch. They do a really good job with that. So yeah, there you go. Anyway, thank you for the kind words, John. I appreciate that very much, dude. Thank you so much. All right. Next up, and then we're going to take a little break because we've been going for like over 45 minutes already. All right, Taki75 writes, the guy who did 65 ought to get some kind of award. They managed to make a dinosaur film deathly boring. I don't know that I agree. Like, look, was 65 great? No, it wasn't. That's the dinosaur movie with Kylo Ren. With the twist at the end. Is the movie great? I would not say it's great. But I got to admit, if I remember correctly, I think I kind of had fun with it. I think I enjoyed it. Now, again, I don't think it was wonderful, but I thought it was fine. I didn't think 65 was like Razzie worthy or anything like that. I thought it was pretty good. What can I say? I kind of thought it was pretty good. But anyway, that's just me. All right, guys, listen. We still have more questions to get through. And by the way, the super chats are still open, but I'm going to turn them off in the next couple of minutes. Okay, so if you have a question, observation, theory, topic, whatever, you've got a couple of minutes left to fire it on in. And I think by the end of our little sponsor break, I'll then turn off the super chats, but they're open right now. So we're going to take a quick break here, give you guys a chance to run to the bathroom, grab yourself something to eat. I'm going to refill my drink. Maybe give you guys a chance to talk amongst yourselves for a few minutes. So then we're going to come back and get to the rest of the questions. So we're going to take a minute to thank 3 sponsors of our show here today, our friends at Kikoff, NordVPN, and Ridge. Hey guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor for today's episode, Ridge. All right guys, let's talk wallets for a second. If you are still using that bulky, falling apart, overstuffed leather wallet, then it's time for an upgrade. I've had my eye on Ridge wallets for a couple of years now, and I finally recently made the switch to it, and I am absolutely never going back. This thing looks great, it's sleek, ultra minimalist, and can hold up to 12 cards plus cash, all without bulking up my pockets. It's made from high performance materials like carbon fiber and titanium, meaning it's built to last a lifetime. Ridge will even back it with a lifetime warranty. And this thing has the dual combo of looking great and being far more comfortable than that thick wallet. Because there's no win with the thick wallet, right? Like if you put it in your back pocket, it's uncomfortable to sit down, and it looks absolutely stupid in the front of your pants if you shove it into your front pocket. And right now, Ridge is having their once-a-year anniversary sale. Get up to 40% off at ridge.com/Campea. Just head over to ridge.com/Campea to see their biggest sale of the year. Now, after you purchase, they will ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them that I sent you. Once again, that's ridge.com/Campea. We want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's episode, NordVPN. All right, let's be real. There's nothing worse than wanting to stream your favorite show or watch a live game only to find out it's blocked in your country. But guess what? With NordVPN, that is never a problem. With just one click, you can switch your virtual location and access content from anywhere in the world. I have loved using NordVPN. Whether I'm traveling and using public Wi-Fi or just shopping online, NordVPN keeps my personal info safe and private. By switching my location, I can even save money on flights, hotels, and subscriptions. It's like a cheat code for getting the best deals. NordVPN is the fastest VPN in the world, so there's no buffering when I'm streaming. Plus, their threat protection feature blocks malware, trackers, and phishing attempts, keeping my devices safe 24/7. And with just one account, I can protect up to 10 devices, so my whole setup is covered. So to get the best discount on your NordVPN plan, head to nordvpn.com/John Campea, and our link will even give you 4 extra months for free on the 2-year plan. Plus, there's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. Links in the description. Check it out now. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Kikoff. Man, time flies, doesn't it? 1 minute, you're reminiscing about your last vacation, and the next, you're thinking about major life goals, like buying a car, getting that dream home. But if your credit isn't where it needs to be, those goals can feel out of reach. And that's where Kikoff comes in, the #1 credit building app in the App Store that makes it easy, affordable, and stress-free to build credit fast. And that's exactly why I love Kikoff. They give you a credit line for just building credit, not for spending. Your on-time payments get reported to the 3 major credit bureaus, helping you improve your credit mix and payment history, 2 of the biggest factors in credit growth. If your credit is under 600, you could see a jump of about 28 points in your first month. No credit check, no hidden fees, no interest, just smart credit building. Building credit can happen faster than you expect with Kikoff. Don't wait. Get your first month for just $1 at getkikoff.com/Campea. That's kickoff without the C. Get 80% off at getkikoff.com/Campea. Must sign up via getkickoff.com/Campea to activate offer. Offer applies to new customers first month only, subject to approval. Offer subject to change. Terms and conditions may apply. Point stat based on Equifax Vantage Score 3.0 changes for Kikoff users starting under 600 who made their first on-time payment between January of 2021 and March of 2024. Payment and credit activity outside Kikoff can have an impact on your credit. Individual results may vary. And thank you to our friends at NordVPN, Ridge, and Kikoff for sponsoring today's episode. Thank you so much. All right, guys. With that all down, just to let you know, I have turned off the super chats now. So I'm only, if you're trying to send in a question from here on out and you can't, that's why I've turned them off. So let's get to the remaining questions here, shall we? We're going to pick things up here with Ryan, who writes, I really liked episodes 1 and 2 of Daredevil, but damn, episode 3 was just incredible. I don't see that much in Disney Plus shows. The writing, the dialogue, and the score, it's just incredible. Yeah, like I'm not going to say, I don't think it was like the best episode of Marvel on Disney Plus or anything yet, but that episode was amazing. Here's the funny thing about it. I think it was easily the best of the 3 episodes, and there wasn't a single fight in it. Not a single action sequence. But I thought it was the most exciting episode, and yet there was no action scene. That's good writing. That right there is top-notch writing. I had such a good time with that episode. Because, you know, here's the thing. We talk about this a lot, but it needs to be brought up. Marvel Disney Plus shows have no problem starting their shows well. I can't think of a single Marvel Disney Plus show that didn't start well, but a lot of them didn't finish well. Even She-Hulk. The first episode I thought was great. I stand by it. The first episode of She-Hulk is really quite good. It's a good episode. And then and then what happened? Then it just, so I liked episodes 1 and 2 of Daredevil. I thought, all right, we're off to a good start. Great. But the rubber meets the road once you get into episodes 3, 4, and 5 of these Disney shows, right? Of these Disney Plus shows, I mean. And for them to come out with episode 3 and have it be the best episode of the so far out of the 3, and again, the most exciting episode, even though there wasn't a single action sequence, it says a lot. And again, I know we said it last week, but when the credits start to roll and you start to hear the whistle song of the of the frogs. That broke me emotionally. That totally broke me emotionally. I loved that. I thought it was great. And yeah, let's see what happens with episode 4 now. All right. Let's see. Next up, we've got Calvin's writes, I love both shows, probably going back talking about Reacher and Daredevil Born Again. But I feel the Pitt towers both. Listen, look, I love the Pitt. I am glued to that show. I love it. That being said, every episode is like a lot of medical dramas, right? Okay, we're in there. Oh no, the doors burst open as paramedics rush in with somebody on the bed. We've got a 38-year-old male with a gunshot wound to the abdomen. And oh no, and then it's all oh, what's wrong with him? How do we fix him? And then maybe he lives, maybe he dies at the end. Repeat, right? While I am loving the Pitt, I'm completely loving it. I love the characters. I love all that kind of stuff. There's also an element of it that is very medical drama formula, right? There is a lot of that there. They're not reinventing the wheel. Now, a lot of shows aren't reinventing the wheel, granted, but I think particularly something like the Pitt, we've seen Grey's Anatomy, and we've seen St. Elsewhere, and we've seen ER, and we've seen Chicago MD, and we've seen Chicago, whatever. We've seen this. There's a definitive formula. The Pitt absolutely uses that formula. They might use it better than a lot of others do. But again, it sounds like I'm crap talking on the show. I am addicted to this show. I really am. But again, it doesn't belong in the conversation. It doesn't belong in the conversation because we were talking about Daredevil and Reacher, not because they're the two best shows on TV. We're talking about because those are two very comparable shows. Those are two shows that are absolutely definitively, by the way they're made and everything, going after the same demographic. They're going after the same audience. The Pitt, is kind of like trying to compare White Lotus to those two shows, or trying to compare Shogun to those two shows, or trying to compare Succession to those two shows. It's just a different show, different discussion. And it's going to be interesting discussing the Pitt when it's done, because I think they got one episode left. I think they only have one left. Anyway, it's going to be interesting discussing the show when it's done and kind of looking back at it. It is a very formulaic show. It's absolutely the same formula that almost every medical drama that's come out before it has been. But it's got a little bit of extra special sauce in it that makes it really sticky. Like I am obsessed with this show. I'm glued to it when it's on. Anyway, really, if you're not watching the Pitt, you should absolutely go watch it. It's really wonderful to watch. Unless you don't like medical dramas. If you don't like medical dramas, this won't be for you either. All right. Let's see here. Next up, we've got, Tacky's there. Oh, there was another one at the bottom there from Tacky I did not see. All right. Tacky also wrote in before. I see Fast and the Furious as films completely unearthed to our reality. The problem is they were not set up that way. Anyway, so I actually had a blast with Fast X. More power to you. And I hope to finish the story with 11. Here's the problem with that, though, is that they already, when you go back to Fast 1, 2, and 3, while it definitely pushed the limits of believability, those movies were meant to be routed in reality, right? Street racing, you crash, you can die, all that kind of stuff, right? It's the series, the franchise was already kind of established, supposedly in reality. Then it got more and more ridiculous. And listen, Fast X, for me, I'm only speaking for me personally, okay? Fast X isn't terrible because they got too detached from reality. That's a choice. You can choose to make it grounded or you can choose to make it fantastical. Okay. I thought they made the wrong choice, but that's okay. You can still make it good. Fast X was terrible because it was terrible. Now you liked it, and I'm not taking anything away from that. If you enjoyed it, I celebrate that. I'm jealous. I wish I enjoyed it too. And it has its fans. And I'm just speaking for me personally. And your opinion is no more, no less valid than mine. But I thought that movie sucked ass. Not because they got detached from reality, but because of everything else that makes a movie good or bad. Story, characters, dialogue, through lines, narratives, all that kind of stuff. I found everything about that movie completely reprehensible and like offensive to my senses, except for Jason Momoa's character. Jason Momoa's character was really, really quite good. But other than that, whether they stayed grounded or not, it was just a really terrible movie. Again, to me, I'm not saying you're wrong for liking it. It's just that you and I hit us in different ways. Perfectly fine. But yeah, I cannot wait for this series to be done. I'll be honest with you. I'm more interested. I want them to do a Hobbs and Shaw too. I thought Hobbs and Shaw was the best Fast and the Furious movie since Fast 7. I really liked Hobbs and Shaw. I don't think it was the best of the Fast and Furious franchise, but I really quite liked it. I am far more interested right now, and it doesn't look like they're going to do it, but I would be far more interested today in a Hobbs and Shaw 2 than I would be in Fast 11. I have zero interest in Fast 11. I have zero belief in it. I have zero hope for it. I have zero interest in it. Now, I'm a big Vin Diesel fan, so I'm going to go see it, but it's going to be more to complete watching it. It's not going to be to go see it because I can't wait for Fast 11. No, I'm very excited. Let me put it this way. I'm very excited to get it over with. I'm excited to go and see Fast 11 just to get it over with. I am certainly not excited for Fast 11. Hopefully the movie will turn out great and it'll change my mind, but we'll see. All right. Thanks for that, man. All right. Where did we leave off here now? All right. Now we are at Don Juan, who writes, have you seen the trailer for The Working Man with Jason Statham? Yes. Did you like it? It is with the same director of Beekeeper. Okay. Here's the thing. Let me just see if I can bring this up. Gonna see if I can find this. I'm not sure I can. Oops, maybe if I spelt it right. I have a very, very bias for Jason Statham. I'm just going to admit that, okay? Because Jason Statham was the very first guy to do an interview for me on the movie blog. He was the first one. This video is from 18 years ago. Back when I did my movie blog, my friends who directed Crank, Mark Neveldine and Brian Taylor, they set it up so I could interview Jason on it. I'm a huge, huge Jason Statham fan. I will be for the rest of my life. All right. Because he was the very first guy, the first celebrity dude who did an interview for me on my little website, the movie blog. And he was very, very gracious to do that. So I always have a soft spot for Jason Statham. That being said, the trailer for The Working Man looks exactly the same as every Jason Statham movie made over the past 15 years. They all look the same. Now, if you're somebody like me, that's not necessarily a bad thing because I happen to get a kick out of Jason Statham's movies. Jason Statham and Liam Neeson right now, like all the trailers to all their movies look completely identical. Like you could watch a trailer for one. They could literally take 7 trailers from the last 7 Liam Neeson movies and mix them up into one 2-minute trailer, and you would never know they were to different movies. You would think this was a simple 2-minute trailer for one single movie. I feel like you could do the same for a lot of Jason Statham's things, but again, like to some people, that's a bad thing. But to me, it ain't that bad because I happen to like a lot of these Jason Statham, hey, he's a guy you wouldn't think too much about, but it turns out he's the ultimate badass and he's out to get the bad guys, right? It's a Jason Statham movie. So do I think that this particular trailer looks great? No, because I mean, Michael Pena's in it. That's pretty interesting to me. I really like Michael Pena. Anyway, but am I interested in the movie? It's a Jason Statham movie, so of course I am. It's like asking me, hey, John, would you like some ice cream? The answer to that is always yes. It's a Jason Statham movie. Of course I'm interested in watching it, and I'm probably going to enjoy it. But I'm not going to pretend like the trailer for Working Man is something incredible, because it looks like the trailer to every single one of his other movies too. For me, that's a good thing. For other people, maybe not so much, but yeah, there's that. All right. Next up, we've got D2, who writes, the new Dexter cast is fabulous. I want a season 2 so bad. I'll tell you what, I'm a big Dexter fan. I loved the original series. I even really liked the final season. I just didn't like the finale. I just didn't like the final episode. But I know a lot of people crap on the final season. I actually really like the final season. I just didn't like the finale. Whatever, that aside. So it was with great anticipation that they had that Dexter New Blood. It's like, Dexter's back. Yeah. Oh, the show was not good. The show was not good. And so then they announced a prequel series, Dexter Original Sin. And back when Dexter first started working with the Miami Police Department. And I saw the trailer. I'm like, well, that's a killer cast. I mean, the cast is amazing. I mean, getting Christian Slater as Harry, chef's kiss. Awesome. And the kid they got to play the young Dexter, I would think that was him. But you know who the biggest one was? The dude they got to play the younger version of Angel. If you came to me and said, hey, scientists actually were able to genetically clone that guy who played Angel in Dexter and grew a younger version clone of that guy, I would believe you, because that guy looks like he is absolutely Angel's son. He looks completely identical to Angel. I could not believe how good that casting was. Anyway, and because he acted just like Angel too, perfectly. Perfect Angel. Anyway. So, but while I thought the trailer was really good, and I thought the cast looked great, I wasn't all that excited about watching it because Dexter New Blood was such a disappointment to me. But a bunch of people wrote in, a bunch of you guys wrote into the show and said, John, this new Dexter show is pretty darn good. I'm like, really? Okay. So I sat down and I checked it out, got through the whole season so quickly. It's really good. It's not as good as the original series. Not many things are. But I could not believe how good Original Sin was. And now they've got Dexter Resurrection coming, or whatever. What is the name of the new Dexter thing coming? They got the new one where it's the original actor coming back. What's it called? Guys in the live chat, what's the name of that show going to be? It's Dexter something. Anyway. And now all of a sudden, I'm excited about it because Dexter Original Sin was so good. Now, you mentioned wishing they could do a season 2. The problem is there's really nowhere left to go, right? There's nowhere left to go. They told the origin story. They set up the thing with his brother, all that kind of stuff. It's like, now you got to age them all up. Well, now you're just getting too close to the original series. So listen, if they announced they were going to do a Dexter Original Sin season 2, I'd be on board for it. But yeah, I don't think they should. I would watch it if they did it, but I don't think they should. Now here's hoping that Dexter Resurrection is as good as Original Sin. Because if it is, then they're off and running. They're on the right track. Let's see. Next up, we've got Daniel Rahimi writes, Why do you continue to make fun of Black Adam's box office when the Flash's box office is right there? Oh no, the Flash's box office was lower than that. The Flash is a more popular character and it made only 200 million. The Flash's box office failure should be talked about more. But here's the thing. Because with all the drama, with the death of faith in the DCEU, and with all the wrong reasons of the star of the movie, Ezra Miller, being in the headlines constantly for a year before the movie even got released, are we surprised it made that little? Yeah, but nobody was expecting $1 billion film out of that. On the other hand, and absolutely, from a purely mathematical business perspective, Flash was absolutely more of a failure than Black Adam was. 100%. But there have been other movies that have been even bigger failures than The Flash. It's not a comparison, right? On paper, mathematically, box office-wise, business-wise, Flash was the bigger failure. 100%. However, they announced Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson as being Flash like a decade before that movie came out. Some people say, and they're not wrong, there was like up to 15 years before that movie ever came out. They were talking about Dwayne Johnson as Black Adam. I was at CinemaCon. I was there. I was in the room when Dwayne Johnson got out on stage and said, "The hierarchy of power in the DC universe is about to change." Or I'm paraphrasing. It was something like, what was the exact quote? But you know what I'm saying, right? When he came out and first made that statement, the hierarchy of power in the DCU is about to change. When my boot is on Superman's throat. And at the time, a lot of people have short memories. But at the time, without question, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was the biggest box office draw in the business. Oh, John, if this guy's better, it doesn't matter who you think is better. It was mathematically proven. Dwayne Johnson was the biggest box office draw in the business. You could put him in a piece of crap that would have made $100 million, but he's in it, so it made $400 million, right? There have been a bunch of movies like that. That was the Dwayne Johnson. We were talking about the Fast and Furious franchise. That movie, that entire series got resurrected because Dwayne Johnson. That series never had $1 billion chapter in it until Dwayne Johnson came in. All of a sudden, the box office took an exponential jump. At the time, Dwayne Johnson was the biggest movie star in the world. Nobody ever said he was the best actor in the world, but he was the biggest movie star in the world. And so 15 years of buildup, all this stuff, Dwayne Johnson, blah, blah, blah. And that movie ended up making under $400 million. That's insane. In an era when comic book movies ruled the box office, with a guy who at the time was the biggest movie star in the world, that they had been pumping and promoting for over 5 years. And that movie made under $400 million. Was The Flash a bigger box office flop? Absolutely. But ask me the question about which movie fell more short of expectations. That was absolutely the Black Adam. And yes, look, and we honestly don't make fun of Black Adam. I'm still a big Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson fan, by the way. I love The Rock. But I mean, we don't make fun of it. It's just that it's just a fun comparison now. Like when a movie makes like 300 something million and we go, that movie made one Black Adam, or if it made whatever, just because for years and years and years and years, it was supposed to be the movie that was going to turn everything around for the DCU. Flash was never that. I mean, a lot of people thought Flash was going to be very good. For the record, I personally think that movie was very good. I don't care what anybody else says. That was a good movie. Screw anybody else. I mean, it's fine if you didn't like it. It's all subjective, but I don't give a crap if you come at me. I think Flash was a good movie. That being said, nobody thought Flash was financially the movie that was going to come along and turn the entire fate of the DCEU around. But for years and years and years and years, they did think that about Black Adam. And you had my boy, Henry Cavill. There he is. You had my boy in it. It's just at the end and everything. But so, yes, listen, of course there are bigger box office failures. And at the end of the day, yeah, Black Adam lost a little bit of money, but it still made almost $400 million at the box office. And a lot of directors would kill to make a movie that would make $400 million. But it is fun to compare when a movie makes a little over 300, close to 400, maybe a little over 400. It's just fun to say that movie made one Black Adam, or half of a Black Adam, or 3 Black Adams. It's just a fun thing to do. It's not us continuing to trash on Black Adam. For the record, I liked Black Adam. I didn't think it was awesome. I didn't think it was great, but I liked it. I had fun with it. And I'm a big fan of The Rock. I'm not here just bashing on it for the sake of bashing on it. It's just a fun little thing we do when we go, it made one Black Adam. Again, because it was supposed to be, you were the chosen one, Anakin. It was the chosen one. That was the movie. It was going to turn everything around for the DCU. It was going to change the hierarchy of power in the DC universe. It was going to do all this kind of stuff. Biggest movie star in the world. Yada, 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 yada. All that kind of stuff. So yeah, while Flash was absolutely the bigger box office failure, 100%, it wasn't the same disappointment as the results of Black Adam. So anyway, that's just kind of my thing on that. Anyway, next up, we've got, where are we at here? We're at Big Mouth Stan, who writes, the tragedy to me about the ending of Anora, how good is the ending of Anora, by the way, is that she feels like she lost everything. Her hope in a better life and her faith in men is shattered. Not that she ever had a lot of faith in men, to be honest. But she doesn't realize that Igor is there, unwavering and steadfast in who he is, and she cannot look past her hurt to see he is the alternative to the chaos she got hurled out with Ivan. Here's the thing, though. And there's been a lot of debate. I don't know that he was in love with her. I don't know if that was him being in love with her or just legitimately being somebody with empathy and a real human being in a world that Anora lives in that doesn't have a lot of humanity sometimes. And then he's there as somebody who really exhibits, even though he travels in the circles he travels in, he exhibits that humanity. And stuff like that. And yes, in the midst of all the hurt and everything, and Nora doesn't see it, but oh God, listen guys, it won Best Picture for a reason. I know there's a lot of you that have still not watched Anora. It's fantastic. Would I have personally given Best Picture at the Oscars to that? No, I definitely would have given it to Dune 2. And after Dune 2, I would have given it to Conclave. But after Conclave, I would have given it to Anora. It's a totally, I would have given it to one or two other films, but it's a totally worthy winner. Anora is so good. Guys, go watch it. It's a special film. It's a really special film because it really deals with humanity, the humanity in us and the lack of it in us sometimes. And I really like stuff like that. And I think it's just beautiful. All right. Next up. The Duke of Derps. I love that name. That's great. How fantastic is the cinematography so far in Daredevil? I'm going to be honest with you. I think it's quite good, but I wouldn't say it's been one of the key hallmark things for me that has really stood out. You know, I've enjoyed, I think the cinematography is really good. I think it's very solid, but it's not like it's jumped out at me as being completely revolutionary or anything yet. But again, let's see how the rest of the series goes. All right. Next up, we've got D, who writes, reviews I've watched have crapped on Daredevil for the verdict on the White Tiger case. It's on the prosecution to prove guilt beyond reasonable doubt. Yes? Yes. 100%. In law, there's a very important word, and this is very key, called onus. Right? Onus is also a word. It's not just a legal term. But the onus in a criminal prosecution is on the prosecution. It is not up to the defense to prove that their guy is innocent. You know why it's not up to the defense to do that? Because it's not their job. The onus isn't on the defense. The onus is on the prosecution. They have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant is guilty. The defense doesn't have to prove their guy is innocent. It's up to the prosecution. It's like, you're making the accusation, you have to prove it. They don't have to prove their innocence. You have to prove their guilt. Beyond not any shadow of a doubt, but beyond a reasonable doubt. And if you're watching Daredevil, the way they laid out the case, there was plenty of reasonable doubt. There was plenty of reasonable doubt. There was tons of reasonable doubt. If you're a jury member to say, I don't think the prosecution has done enough to convince me that this guy out of nowhere, without his white tiger suit and without his power amulet, who has only ever helped the police and who the police all speak ravingly about, just out of nowhere went down into an empty subway system so he could kill some cops. They didn't prove it. They didn't do enough to prove it. So yeah, I personally think I would have found it more ridiculous if a jury came back in this fictional show and declared him guilty. I just didn't think in the show they did nearly enough to prove that they would have come back with that verdict. But that's just me. That's just me. Who knows? All right. Next up. Oh no, my camera went out. My camera went out. Give me a second here. I'll fix this. So I know you guys can still hear me. Here's the problem. My camera is not meant to be a camera that's on all the time. It's meant to be on for like an hour or so. It's been on for an hour and a half straight. So what I do is I have a fan, a little mini fan, that's right by it. And I have the fan turned on, and that keeps the camera cooled down and it never overheats. I forgot to turn on the camera, or I forgot to turn on the fan. I totally forgot to turn on the fan. So forgive me for that. I've got the fan blowing on. I'll turn the camera back on in a second. Let me at least read Calvin's question. Calvin writes, John, would there be a place for a Hindsight movie awards? No. Like an Oscar, but it always awards movies 10 years old or something. All the best. Actually, absolutely not. 100% no. And I'm going to try to turn my camera back on. Give me a second here. I would say absolutely not. Absolutely no. And the reason I would say absolutely no, and let me get my focus back here. There we go. The reason I would say absolutely no, hopefully it won't overheat again. Sorry about that, guys. Is we had this discussion a couple of months ago. Movies are products of the eras in which they come. They're stories being told within the context and within the framework of where the audience is at the time. And there's no replacing. Movies are experiential events, and the purest experience with something is your first experience with it. That's your purest experience, is your first experience, your first encounter with it. Now, there's absolutely times where I've gone back and watched a movie and thought, you know what, that movie is way better than I remembered. And there have been examples when I've gone back to a movie and said, man, that movie's nowhere near as good as I remember. But that's only like 2% of the time. It's only like 2% of the time. And so, no, I don't see any. Because after 10 years, you're now subject to all the discussion about the movie and all the biases about the movie. And has culture changed and how now we perceive those movies and all that kind of stuff. And that's not what movies are made for. Movies are not made for the audience 10 years from now. They're made for the audience that it's about to be presented to. So like for me, one of the bigger miscarriages in Oscar history was Forrest Gump winning Best Picture. And I love Forrest Gump. Forrest Gump is remarkable. It's amazing. Don't misinterpret me. Don't misquote me. Forrest Gump is great. But there's not a lot of cinephiles today worth their salt that won't tell you that Shawshank Redemption probably is the better movie, right? Shawshank to me is like one of the most perfect movies ever made. Again, all subjective, whatever. But at the time, when people first experienced it and their first reactions and their first whatever to it was, they voted for Forrest Gump. More power to them. That's great. You don't need, and you don't need to validate Shawshank. Shawshank doesn't need validation. You don't have to go back 10 years later. And again, because then you're not just judging the movie purely on the movie's own inherent value. You're now going back 10 years later and judging it, and you're bringing along 10 years of baggage, 10 years of arguments, and 10 years of debates, and cultural shifts, and cultural biases, and all that kind of stuff that can come up that it removes the purity of it. So have there been examples in Oscar history that I think certain things should have won over others? Sure, but that's the part of being a film fan, because it's all subjective. I just think if you try to award something again 10 years later, it wouldn't just be on the art. It would be with all the 10 years of baggage that comes along with it. And I don't agree with that. I don't think that we should have that. So anyway, that's kind of my take. It's a really interesting question, but that's just my take. And I just don't think there's any value in that. I think it would actually be very, very detrimental myself, but that's just me. All right. Thanks for that, man. Next up, we got Purple Haze, who writes, "Hey, John, did you see the State Farm Batman commercial? There was a great Joker version in that commercial you should see." Oh, we talked about it on the show the other day. We didn't make it a topic because it's not worth being a topic, but we talked about it on the show the other day. That was really fun. And here's the thing. It's easy to make a version of the Joker look great when it only has to be on screen for 10 seconds, right? That's easy. That's simple. That's not a problem. Was it a great version of the Joker when you have to do it for 20 minutes? I don't know about that, but I will say it was a great commercial. You know, you want real insurance. You don't want, like, when crime is breaking out, you want Batman, not Bateman, and Jason Bateman shows up. It was a great commercial. I got a big kick out of it. I really enjoyed it. All right. Next up, we've got Isaac Martinez, who writes, "Hey, John, I heard that Apple TV refused to have Killers of the Flower Moon into the Criterion Collection. I feel bad for Martin and movie fans." I haven't heard that. I mean, I'm not saying it's not true. I'm just saying I haven't heard it. I'm not saying that's not true. Who cares? Guys, look, I know there is this hallowedness about the Criterion Collection, and I'm not bad-mouthing it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not bad-mouthing it at all. But who cares? 99% of the audience have never heard of the Criterion Collection. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. I really don't think that Martin Scorsese is losing any sleep over it. Now, again, I don't know if what you're saying is true. I have no reason to doubt it, but nobody cares. It doesn't mean anything. It's not going to affect anybody's checkbooks. It's not going to be so. I mean, I know it's considered this big badge of honor. This movie was brought into the Criterion Collection. Ask 100 people. Go to an average movie theater. Okay? Go to an average movie theater and interview 100 people coming out of it. Maybe 3 of them know what the Criterion Collection is. Maybe 3. Maybe. So I really don't think it's that big of a deal. Again, you're asking me, so I'm just giving you my opinion. But you did ask, so I'm giving you my opinion. I really don't think anybody considers it that big of a deal. All right. Final one of the day. Because remember, I told you guys about half hour ago that we turned off the super chats. All right. Michael Maximilian Moriarty writes, do you expect any Doomsday news at CinemaCon? You know what? That's a very interesting question. Here's the thing. What you should not expect coming out of CinemaCon is any news about the new Batman movie. You shouldn't expect any news about Secret Wars. You shouldn't expect any news about a lot because CinemaCon focuses on the movies that are coming out in the next 12 months between CinemaCon and the next CinemaCon. That's the movie, because it's about the movie theater business, right? That's what they focus on. So there's going to be a ton of news. Listen, guys, our coverage of CinemaCon, I'll go this far. I think we, like me and my team, I think we have done the best CinemaCon coverage of anybody. Major trades, anybody else. There's not a lot I can say that we do the best at, but I think our coverage of CinemaCon has always been the best. That's just my personal opinion. You may disagree. That's fine. But we make a big deal out of CinemaCon, and we bring people to, and I spend a lot of money on bringing people to CinemaCon, and all that kind of stuff. So, and we are going to do more CinemaCon coverage this year than we have in any other year. That being said, don't expect a lot of movie news about far off movies, because that's not what CinemaCon is about. It's about all the movies coming out between CinemaCon and the next CinemaCon. So I would want to say, don't expect any news about Doomsday. But here's the thing. Doomsday comes out just weeks after the next CinemaCon. Like literally just a few weeks after the next CinemaCon. So I would say, with it being that close, so like it's not within the 1 year window, but it's within 1 year and a few weeks. I would say maybe there's like a 50-50 chance. I'd say there's like a 50-50 chance that they drop some news about Doomsday. That Kevin Feige is often there. I wouldn't doubt at all that Kevin Feige will be there again this year. That Kevin Feige may, just like they brought out Robert Downey Jr., maybe he goes, one of the forces standing against Dr. Doom is going to be Steve Rogers, and Chris Evans goes. Again, I'm not saying this was going to happen, but I'm saying there's like maybe a 50-50 chance that we get some news about Doomsday. Don't expect anything else about movies that aren't coming out within that 1 year window, unless it's like super, super close. But Doomsday is so close, and it's such a big deal. Remember, CinemaCon is for movie theater owners. And every movie theater is desperately waiting for Doomsday, right? Doomsday is going to be a huge moneymaker for all the movie theaters all over the world. So because of that, even though it's outside just barely that 1 year window, it's such an important film. It's such a big film. It's such a film that the theaters are so looking forward to. And it's going to come really close after the next CinemaCon. I'd say there's a 50-50 chance. That we actually get some Avengers Doomsday news out of that. All right. Guys, that's all the questions we had. I'll tell you what I'm going to do, though. I'm going to take just a couple of minutes, and take some questions from you guys in the live chat. Now, if you're in the live chat, look what I just put in the live chat. If you have a question for me, type out in all capital letters, question, : That way I know you're asking me a question. I can pick them up. I'm not going to answer all of them. I'm just going to take a couple of minutes and answer a couple. I'll pick them out myself. So let's see here. What do we got? Let's see. What do we got? This is an interesting one. Josh asks, Josh asks, do you think it's stupid that Disneyland has an R-rated character like Deadpool at Avengers Campus? I know he's toned down, but I still think it's stupid to me. Based on what? That you don't like it? Here's the reality. Whether they should or should not is irrelevant. Kids love Deadpool. And Deadpool is now in the MCU. Deadpool is the highest grossing R-rated film of all time. Deadpool made $1.3 to $1.4 billion at the box office. Deadpool's a major deal. You want to put characters there that people get excited about when they see the characters. So you can think it's stupid all you want, and I understand he's an R-rated character. He's not supposed to appeal to kids. I get that. But the reality is, kids love Deadpool. Families love Deadpool. And you can argue that they should or shouldn't, and I respect that, but the reality, he does. So it would be rather stupid of them not to have Deadpool there at Avengers Campus. He's in the MCU, and he's insanely popular. If you were an executive at Disney Parks and said, we shouldn't put Deadpool in there, you'd probably be fired. Because of course you put him in there. Guess what? They have R-rated horror characters at Universal Studios every Halloween. And a lot of kids go to Halloween Horror Nights. It's a huge popular thing. Is it stupid of them to have R-rated horror things there? Of course not. It is what it is. You leave it up to the parents to decide if they want to bring their kids to it or not. Anyway, that's just my kind of take on that, Josh. All right. Let's see. John A.M. writes, how certain are you of the general audiences having negative reception to the questionable aspects of Dune Messiah if Denis keeps him in? I feel pretty solid about it. But again, it all depends on how Denis handles it. If he handles it straight up the way the novel does, I don't think that's going to go over well with the audience. I really don't. But, you know, I'm just speaking. We all speak from our own personal perspective, right? We all see things, all of us. And I'm no different from our own personal perspective. And I just know that I know when I read Dune Messiah, I'm like, really? This is what you're doing with Paul? Amongst other things. And yeah, I really think it's going to not go over great with a lot of people. I just don't think it will. Let's see here. MBT writes, what are you most excited about for CinemaCon 2025? Okay, so for those of you who don't know, every single studio is going. And they all have like a 2-hour presentation where they bring out every star and every director of all the movies they have coming out this year. And they show us footage and clips and like stuff that they won't make public for another 6 months, 7 months, 8 months. It's crazy. And some of the studios even bring full screenings. Like we already know, they've confirmed that they're going to show us How to Train Your Dragon, the live action film, long before it comes out in theaters. I'm so excited about that. I cannot wait for that. I think, okay, so I got to be careful because there's a good chance this doesn't even happen. Okay. There's a very, very good chance this doesn't even happen, but I still suspect that Warner Brothers is going to show us Superman. I really suspect that they are. Now I could be 1,000% wrong. I wouldn't put any money on that. There's a million reasons why they won't bring and show us Superman, but I kind of suspect they will. So because of that, that would be the thing that I'm looking forward to the most. I'm also absolutely looking forward to the Warner Brothers panel, or not the panel, the presentation. I'm really looking forward to Disney's presentation. I'm looking forward to I love all the presentations. The presentations are always great. But if there was one single thing, I'm absolutely really hoping they show us Superman. If not, then there's still 1,000 other things I'm excited about. All right, I'll pick one more because we've gone well over an hour and a half. Let's see. Where are we at here? Woo, Anthony Mendoza. This is a good one. It's a personal question, but it's like, are you more excited for CinemaCon or the Oscars every year? Look, the Oscars are my second favorite day of the year. Christmas is my favorite day of the year. And then my second is not my birthday. It's not It's not my anniversary. My second favorite day of the year is the Oscars because I'm a movie guy. It's the climax of the movie calendar. It's great. But I actually get to go to CinemaCon. CinemaCon is a 4-day event. So while my single favorite day, other than Christmas, is still Oscars, what do I look forward to every year more? CinemaCon. CinemaCon is what I look forward to every year more. And that's why I am so excited. And this year, man, I love who I'm bringing with me. I love who I bring with me every year, but it's going to be me and Ann and Ray and Robert Meyer Burnett and Olympic gold medalist, Cody Miller. You guys, of course, remember Cody, are all coming with me. We're going to be doing stuff. You know, I think Jeff Snyder might even be sitting in on some of our coverage as well because I think Jeff's going to be there. So anyway, I'm really excited about the team that I'm bringing to Las Vegas this year. It's going to be great. I'm super excited for it. Cannot wait. And all right, guys, that'll do it for tonight's installment of Open Mic. Thank you so much for joining us and being here today. Hey, guys, listen, you're going to want to come and join us for tomorrow's The John Campea Show because let me just bring up some of the stuff we're talking about. We're going to be talking about the Snow White reactions. Which that's going to get a lot of discussion going. We're going to be talking about Percy Jackson, the Olympians. We're going to be talking about a Starship Troopers remake is coming from the director of District 9. We're going to be talking about the insane trailer numbers that Lilo and Stitch got and a whole bunch more. It's going to be a really good show tomorrow. So make sure you come back and join me, Robert, Chris Carr, Jonathan Ray. Come back and join us tomorrow for the John Campea Show. So that'll do it for us for tonight, guys. Thank you so much for being here. I can't wait to see you tomorrow. My name's John Campea. And until tomorrow, my friends, bye-bye.